Are conferences or networking events valuable to us as e-commerce sellers? Have you wanted to attend an event but not sure if it's going to bring you value? We talk about these topics in this episode of the Amazon Seller Podcast.
This is the Amazon Seller Podcast, hosted by multi-million-dollar Amazon sellers helping you launch your private label business to the next level. Find us on amazingfreedom.com or subscribe to this podcast on iTunes and YouTube.
Okay, so today we're going to talk about conferences and meetups and networking opportunities. But before we get into that, I just want to remind you of an awesome service that we have called the Amazing Freedom Graphic Design Service. If you are creating listings on Amazon, you know how important having good photos are. Well, we take your plain, boring images and we create awesome lifestyle and text describing images. We do that at amazingfreedom.com/magic is where you can check that out. It's a really great service that has been bringing people's listings to life and really making their listings convert better for customers on Amazon. Check it out, amazingfreedom.com/magic. All right, so in today's episode, we are going to talk about conferences and networking opportunities and really just getting together with other Amazon sellers and sharing your experiences. But most of the time, this happens in an organized format like a conference, right? There's a lot of different conferences that go on in our space, especially this year. It seems like there's a ton of great conferences that you can attend, and really you can choose conferences that fit your business model or fit, the speakers that you like, that you're looking forward to hearing, and the people and the location, all of that. That's a great thing about having several different conferences that are going on. It gives you a little more flexibility and opportunities to meet people that you want to meet. So in today's episode, Andy and Liran are just going to give us reasons why they think conferences and networking opportunities really are valuable for us as Amazon sellers and entrepreneurs, and why they have personally attended many conferences. I'm sure they'll give some of their experiences, what it has done in their businesses and what it's allowed them to do and how it's helped them grow. So let's just get into it. Andy, why don't you start us off? Why don't you tell us why you personally like to attend conferences, why you speak at several conferences, and what you feel like this has helped do in your business?
Sure. So I'll just say from the beginning, I tell a lot of people this, I'm actually an introvert. And so going to a conference actually takes a lot of emotional energy for me. Because obviously you go to a conference, you're going to be around a lot of people that you don't know. And a lot of people don't believe me when I say that, but it is like, it takes me a lot of energy to go. But what I found is attending these conferences since I've been an Amazon seller for the last 4 years has for sure been one of the biggest reasons I've been able to grow as quickly as I've been able to grow. And when you meet people face to face, there's really no replacement for that. Facebook groups are great. Introducing yourself to other sellers online, it's a good thing. But when you meet people face to face at a conference, there's different context there. In fact, it's funny, as we're sharing this podcast here with Liran, one of the first times that I met Liran was at a conference. I think it was Scam Power conference, and being able to shake Liran's hand, being able to talk to him for a little bit, it adds a whole nother level of what I would want to say, I guess, as vulnerability or as ability to build trust. And so I've been able to actually enter into a number of partnerships. And the way that I was able to enter into those was because I met the guy, or I met the lady in person at a conference. And so I think that's the kind of opportunities that open up when you're in events like this.
Right. Yeah. So people open up face to face, they share information that they never would just online or on Facebook, right? Many of us are in Facebook groups and we communicate with other sellers on a daily basis, maybe, but people just don't open up like they do face to face. I know the first time I've met people at conferences, it's like a whole new level of communication that opens up. So, Liran, I know you've attended a lot of conferences just in the last year, right? You've really opened up or expanded what you try to do with conferences in the last year. So why don't you give us one of the reasons why you feel that conferences are valuable to you as a seller?
Yeah, I believe so. Like Andy mentioned, I met Andy first face to face at a conference, and I had some interaction with him. I was in his course before the conference, but the relationship just went to in a whole new level once we met face to face. So I was super excited to meet Andy face to face and kind of show him what I was starting to do with private label. But it was really what happened after the face to face, right? Then I felt like, okay, I met Andy face to face. If I message him on Facebook, he kind of knows who I am, and I can show him a product I'm working on. And when I asked him to take a look at a product I was working on, and he gave me, but to tell me like, is something I should go forward with or not. When he told me, yeah, you should do this, I felt like, okay, since he took his time to let me know his opinion on it, maybe I'll ask him to partner on it, as a, sort of to reciprocate the fact that he took his time to take a look at one of my products and validate it. And so that's kind of how we started the relationship of partnering on products. I've had the same experience in going to, higher level mastermind events where, somebody that you talk to on Facebook, perfect example is I was talking to somebody on Facebook last night, and they asked me, about my knowledge in terms of PPC. And they said to me, well, can you show me one of your products that you do PPC on? And I said, well, to be honest, with people I don't really know, I don't share my private label products with them. But, if that person was at a conference and I met them face to face, then I would probably, if I felt some level of trust, I'd probably say, here, take a look at my phone. There's one of my products. Like, please don't share it, right? Because you have that, you can look the person in the eye, and there's just a level of trust that you can get. And then, maybe they would share something back with me. The one thing I go into a conference mindset with is sort of the giver's gain mindset. I don't go in expecting to like extract information from people, but I do go in with the mindset that if I share something with somebody, chances are they'll share something back with me. And not necessarily every person does that, but if you do go to a conference, go in with a open mindset. And I guarantee that if you offer something up first with several people, you're going to get double in return, because people will share back. So for me, it's been really those developing those relationships with people, and the ability to meet the speakers, right? These are people that are sometimes very busy. They're not going to have time to answer your question on Facebook. But if you can approach them after they speak and talk to them and network with them, you don't know what can develop out of those relationships.
Right. Yeah, and those are all good points. And so let's talk about this. What would you say to someone who's listening who kind of has the thought in their head that they would like to attend a conference? Maybe they're not sure which one, but they're kind of concerned because usually conferences have several speakers at them, and they might not be interested in all of the speakers that are there. Right? They might only want to hear one or two speakers, or they're just not sure who the other speakers are. So they're just kind of worried that it's not going to be worth their time, right? Because they're not going to be able to use all the information that's talked about at the conference, or they're just not going to, feel like it relates to them specifically. What would you say to that person who's listening with that type of thought process?
For me, actually, some of the most valuable things that I've learned from conferences have not come from the speakers. They've actually come from other sellers. And so we were just at Prosper Conference in Las Vegas, very big Amazon seller conference. And I sat in on a number of the sessions that the speakers were given, and they were good. But the real value for me was at lunchtime, sitting at different tables and talking to other sellers. Because a lot of times the speakers are going to have their typical stump speech. Maybe they speak at multiple conferences, and that material it can be good. But when you sit down with other sellers around a lunch table, you're going to hear some of their best practices. And so you're going to hear some of the pain points, right, that they're struggling with, which a lot of times are going to be similar to pain points that you struggle with. And so you can kind of share with each other. They're going to share with you how their business is going and maybe some challenges that they're having. And then you can reciprocate and share that as well as your successes. And for me, that's always been the value. And then along with that, like Ron said, once you share in person like that, then it's a lot easier if they contact me or I contact them with an issue once I find out their area expertise. Here's the thing: you go to these conferences and they're going to be people on stage because you got to have people speaking on stage. But a lot of times there's people that are in the audience that are a lot more expert at the particular topic than the guy speaking on stage. Maybe he just knows the right people, right, to get him on stage. But you got to understand, when you go to a conference, the room is going to be full of people who are experts, not just the folks that are up there on stage.
Yeah. So another point, that I would say is that a lot of us are, running our own businesses. If we have any employees, a lot of times it's, virtual employees, and we're running businesses out of our homes. In fact, I know many 7-figure sellers that are, kind of like us. We run this business out of our house. We don't have big warehouses. We have some virtual assistant help, but we're really just sitting by ourselves. And it could be sort of like very, trying to think of the right word, not lonely, but it can be very
Isolating.
Yeah, it can be very isolating, right? So getting out to conferences, you really develop this camaraderie with other sellers. You're getting out of your own sort of zone, and I think it brings an area of just inspiration and motivation for the business. When you're talking to other people and learn about what they're doing, how they're growing their business, I think that the people who actually spend the time, the money, the energy, the focus to go to conferences, they're generally positive people. They're not the type of people that are, they're not complaining that, oh, I spent $1,000 with hotel and airfare to go to this conference. They're positive about it. They're looking to get that one idea that could change your business. I went to in proper conference. I went to spent some time in a additional workshop that I paid money for, a sponsored ad workshop. And I generally feel like I know sponsored ads, but there was one tip that I picked up that's made me, by this point, maybe $1,000, let's say, from the time the conference happened, last month. And that one tip is something that, if that can change your business, that can change how you do things. That's something that you can then share with somebody else that is going to share something with you. It kind of snowballs. So, for me, it's about the inspiration from other sellers, the camaraderie, the networking, so many opportunities. And I think, like Andy said, it's not about the speakers. It's about who are the other people that are going to the conference, and are these the type of people you want to spend your time with? People say that you are made up of the 5 closest people that you spend your time with. Well, who are they? Are they people that are negative in your life, or are they people that you can network and spend time with that are positive and that are, more successful than you and can kind of bring you up instead of, tear you down?
And let me give some advice too that I think is very helpful. When you do decide you're going to go to a conference, right, do your homework and look at the speakers that are coming, right? And if there's a particular speaker that you would like to talk to, because maybe you're really interested in his area expertise, here's next level stuff right here. Do background homework. Find out a little bit about that speaker. If you're friends with them on Facebook, look at his Facebook wall. Find out like what his wife's name is. Find out what, maybe their son or daughter's name is. Not to spy on them, but again, come with a strategy. And so when somebody comes up to me at a conference and says, "Hey, Andy, I saw that post on Facebook that you did with your son, man, that was really cool. I see he plays on the football team. I think that's terrific." And then they'll say, how old is AJ again? So he knew my son's name. And to me, that makes like an immediate connection. And he's not even asking me anything Amazon related yet. He's just showing me that he's interested in my life and that he appreciates things that I post, right? And so I immediately remember who that is. When you do a little bit of research, and looking in, and then the second thing is this, like if there is somebody that you particularly want to talk to, don't necessarily go up to them and just start peppering them, with a million questions, right, about Amazon. Generally, that's not a good way to approach it. Again, as much as possible, just try to make small talk, just about everyday conversation or however you want to approach it. But a lot of times for me, I'll find myself a lot more receptive to a person that kind of is like that, as opposed to just coming up and like shotgunning me with a million different questions.
That is
Yeah.
something I like about conferences, though. Most of us in this business, right? If you're like Andy, Liran, or myself, you're passionate about the business, right? We're all passionate about it. We like talking about Amazon and selling on Amazon. And it's something that we actually probably don't get to do as much as we would like because our family's all sick of hearing about it, right? I know Andy said
Right.
this lots of time. His wife is like, don't talk to me about Amazon anymore. I'm sick of it. But when you go to a conference, you can kind of unload all of that, and everyone around you wants to talk about it too. And going back to what Liran was saying about that isolation factor, it's true. Like if you don't have a supportive spouse in this business, I've seen a lot of people talk about this before. They kind of feel down because they don't have a spouse or a partner who is supportive of them selling online just because they can't relate or whatever. When you go to a conference, you kind of get that supportive feeling from the other sellers. They kind of, they're all in the same boat as you. They think that what you're doing, they believe in what you're doing because they're doing it themselves, right? They're not looking down on it. A lot of us have people that say, you sell on Amazon, that's not a real job or something. Whereas at a conference, we're all kind of in the same boat. We have the same feeling towards each other. We met someone, Andy and I, last year at the Rocky Mountain conference, I believe it was their first time ever attending a conference or a networking event. And it was actually the first time they had ever talked to other people who sold on Amazon. And get this, I don't know if we've told you this before, Liran, this person was doing over $2 million a year on Amazon, and they had never talked to another seller before about Amazon. I found it hard to believe because we're kind of involved in these Facebook groups, but not everyone is. And so this is a good chance to talk to someone who might be a multi-million-dollar seller, but has no connections, to other sellers. And you could be the one that they start talking to, start sharing with, and start giving good, practices back and forth.
And Andy spoke about coming up to somebody and not just like throwing up all your questions right in front of them, right? That's kind of like what they say networking, like you want to like go to a networking event and like offer your service or whatever, and you like throw up your business card like to somebody, like, take my card, here's my card. Nobody really cares, right? But if you go in like building rapport and like, hey, how's your family, or where do you live, and then a great follow-up question to, if you want to like get them to open up and start talking a little bit about business, is like, hey, what's your challenge in your business right now? Right? Somebody asked me that the other day, and it's like, that's a great question, because it's not a yes or no question. It immediately gets you to open up, and then you really start to have a dialogue. Cash flow, or sourcing a product, or there's a race to the bottom on the pricing, and like you really get to find out what's happening in somebody's business, and then maybe you can offer some kind of help, or maybe you could talk about strategies on how to solve those problems. And so I think that's a great open-ended question when you are meeting people. Like, find out what's their challenge, how you can help them.
All right, so last question I'm going to ask you guys. You've each been to quite a few conferences before. Have you ever attended a conference or networking event and felt like it just wasn't worth your time or wasn't valuable? And if you have, can you kind of tell us why you felt like that?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I've gone to a lot of events. I can't say that there's any time that I've traveled and got to meet and speak with other sellers that I've regretted that experience. I've only regretted the times that I couldn't make an event or couldn't go, because then I kind of see some of the feedback on it, and about the speakers or the networking, and like, wow, that was a really great event. Andy mentioned to me last year when he went to the Prosper show, like, that was a good show, you should go to that, that show. Is like a lot of bigger sellers, good networking. And I made it a point that no matter what, this year that show was going to be on my calendar because somebody recommended it as a show to go to. So I really don't think, I think as long as you are willing to put yourself out there a little bit and talk to people, that you should not have a bad experience. Going to an event. Like Andy said, do your homework. Most conferences are not crazy expensive. They're generally, for the most part, less than $500 or $400 a ticket. It's not a tremendous expense. It's I see sometimes like Chris Green or Andy or somebody will post like, hey, we're doing a conference and it's going to be in in Denver, and somebody says, well, when are you coming to Kansas, right? Like, and I've seen Chris talk about this, like, I'm never coming to Kansas for a conference. Like, the conference will never come to you. The work is up to you to go to the conference. So don't wait till there's a conference, till something happens in your city. You kind of need to just get up and go and be there.
Andy, same question. Have you ever had a conference you felt like wasn't worth it? And what was in your opinion, what was the reason why it wasn't worth it for you to attend?
The same, I give the same answer. Every conference I've gone to, every gathering, every meetup, if you're not going to a conference, look for local meetups, maybe that are in your area or in a neighboring state. Look, it's worth driving 6 hours to go to a 4-hour Amazon seller meetup, again, because it's going to be filled with people who are doing the exact same thing that you're doing. And the reason why conferences for me have always given value, again, is because there's people there. I value people. I learn from people. And when you go to a place, right, where it's going to be filled with your peers who are doing, very similar things that you are, is selling on Amazon, or maybe it's, eBay related, selling on eBay, you're going to learn best practices that you would not learn anywhere else.
The last thing I just want to add is that there's sort of a beauty in the Amazon conference world, because like in a prior life, I was in the financial services industry, and I was in insurance, right? And I had an online life insurance website, and there were conferences, but if you went to a conference and there were other online life insurance, agencies there, I wouldn't really share with them what my best practices were to get traffic to my website, or because we're targeting the same audience. We're in the same field. There's a lot of conferences like that. On Amazon, everybody, there's millions of products. Everyone is selling something different. You don't need to share what product you're selling, but the strategies you can share. And again, there's very little chance that somebody you meet is, marketing the same exact product that you are. So that's the beauty of, Amazon, is that people can really share openly and teach you without sharing every aspect of their business.
Right. And I like what Andy said before. Conferences aren't mandatory. If you only have a couple $100 in your business, right? We're not trying to say that you need to attend a conference in order to be successful. But Andy mentioned a good point. There's a lot of free options out there. Look for a local meetup. Do something to connect with other sellers. There's other options besides just the main conference, but there are some really good, valuable ones. And speaking of that, Rocky Mountain Reseller Conference is a really valuable conference. We've attended this in the past, and Andy and Liran are actually going to be speaking there. It's at the beginning of June of 2017. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys. But that conference put on by Travis Ross and Paul Witter is really valuable. It's definitely one we would recommend checking out. Again, we don't have any ties to this conference. It's not our conference. We don't get anything by promoting it, but it is a good way to connect with us. If you want to hang out with us, it'll be a good 2-day conference to look at. Anything else on this topic today, guys?
No, I think, like you said, go out and network in some kind of way, meetup or conference. And if you're selling even $10,000 a month, then you have a little profit. Put some money aside and make it a goal to go in 2018, to one conference or to one event.
All right. Well, some really great information that we heard today. Andy and Liran, their personal experiences on this topic. Always valuable to hear their opinion and get their insight. So I think that's going to do it for today. Hey, if you haven't yet, you should really check out our free private label course that we have. It's the Smart Private Label course. You can see that at amazingfreedom.com/smart. It is completely free and a really great resource for you to check out if you're interested in getting into private label or want to expand on some of your private label ideas. Again, that's amazingfreedom.com/smart. Make sure you check it out. We'll see you on the next time of the Amazon Seller Podcast.
You've been listening to the Amazon Seller Podcast. Make sure to subscribe and join us next time for another look at how to dominate the Amazon marketplace.